hell was that? Because I was just sort of swinging the camera around to... It's difficult to represent dome content on a, you know, a little square box.
Everyone who's tried to produce for the... So, well, you probably already talked to John Frosch about the CG stuff. He was definitely
Okay. I'm terrible with this. I That was where I was going. It's either that or like let me take a screenshot or like just something so that there's no but it's like there's lots of editing between me and my friend. Somewhere there, I hope. Did a little bit more of that. We actually came to the hospitality suite last night. It's like, oh, they did. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Yes.
I just want to check one, check two.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, boop. Okay, we're not starting just yet. I just want to note we're about 20 people short of a quorum right now, so if you know anyone who's out in the hallway, just let them know.
I think we're probably okay. Thank you, though. For this, it's fairly straightforward.
what we could do is just say that. Did you hear that, Sherry? Until we have a quorum, or until we think we're at our highest number, we're not going to do the secretary's report. We're going to go straight to you first. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I know it's been a long conference and you're exhausted. It's okay to nod off every once in a while. But thank you for being here and participating in this still important part of our organization and the work that gets done. So if it looks like Dan is counting, he is. We're trying to get up to the point where we have an actual quorum. Luckily, we don't have anything except approval of the minutes that we have to vote on. So that would be the only thing that we can't do if we don't have a quorum. So we are going to skip the first item on the agenda to start with. Sure, all right, not that part. We'll call the meeting to order. Thank you. We're going to skip the approval of the minutes. Oh, and we're probably not going to do refreshments, bathrooms, and lunch plans. That was a carryover from the executive committee meeting. So our first report will be from Sherry Adams, our treasurer.
Good afternoon. So GLPA is very fiscally sound. We have currently $173,752.61 across all of our accounts. We hold money within an account associated with the gift shop. We hold money in our image bank that helps to sell some of our different shows. And then we have a checking account. We hold a secondary conference account and PayPal. So between all of those accounts, that's where the total amount comes in. It includes revenue that has been come in for the conference so far. It doesn't include just a few checks that came in just recently. So there's a little bit more funding that will be added to that revenue. We do have lots of expenses for the conference, which will be relayed at the end of the conference. So this doesn't reflect what our account is after the conference is over. So I can update that. I've had a discussion with Jeff about updating that through perhaps the newsletter if you're interested in seeing that. We had this spectacular Pleiades conference last fall you're all aware of. Anna and her crew did a great job. So there was excess. There was $5,540 that was due to a GLPA, and that's in the column that's accounted for in the 30th September balance that's listed up there. So that includes the $5,500 that was due to GLPA because of the percentage that we were owed from the revenue excess. Yeah, we had lots of GLP members there. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the balances or? Yes, Gary. Correct, correct. So the expenses, very few of the expenses have been accounted for thus far, just a few. So. But even with the expenses, we are fiscally very sound. We are, we're doing well. So, no problem there. So, any questions about that? I want to reiterate my thanks for changing our fiscal year, because that makes the way that we report to the IRS what our income is annually. We have to file that report, and by changing the fiscal year to the end of March 31st, that allows us to group all of the revenue and all of the expenses more readily. It just makes it appear cleaner. It's just an easier association. So the taxes were filed. They're due the 15th day of the 5th month after our fiscal year is over. So they were due mid-August. They were sent in July, and so that's taken care of. We have, let's see, no, that's okay. And we're incorporated in the state of Michigan. That's been taken care of. That's due every year at the end of September, October 1st, and that's been taken care of. We hold liability insurance, and I think we have. That's about it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Sherry, thank you for your report and for all the work you do. Next up in the agenda is the President's report. Not much of any substance. Most of it is just kind of normal kind of day-to-day business stuff. We are looking for whether or not maybe we have some type of niche that isn't already being fulfilled for like ongoing professional development throughout the year. So if you have any ideas or interest in that, talk to Peggy. Peggy, wave. No wonder I couldn't see you. So it could be online seminars like PPA is doing, but we don't want to duplicate or take away anything from what they're doing. And so the only way we would do online seminars is if there was a way that we would do that a little differently. And you already know about the climate and diversity survey, which I reported on behalf of Shannon and her team. So that's it for the President's report. Yeah, thank you. Well deserved. That was sarcasm, just to make sure you know. President-elect's report. Waylena.
Okay, not much for my report. We had the scholarship committee. We were approved for 10 conference scholarships. We had 13 applicants. We voted to approve the additional 3. There really wasn't much difference in ranking after we voted on everyone. And in the end, however, 3 declined for various reasons, so 10 were able to take advantage of the scholarship. Is it appropriate to name the members of the committee to thank them? Okay, so I want to thank Dale, of course, past president, Paulette, membership, and Mark Reed, and Sarah Schultz, who couldn't make the conference herself, but for very good reason. So, yes, so very, very happy for her on that. That's about it. Questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. for the report and for the work that you did for the scholarship committee. We as an organization appreciate that, and certainly the scholarship recipients have an interest in that. Thank you, Dale, for being such a pro. You're already on deck and ready to go. Past President's report.
I just want to take this moment to thank Jeff publicly for stepping in for me last year when I couldn't do it. So, thank you. That's it for my report.
Thank you for that report. Next up, Secretary's report.
So that was hot. Pardon me. The minutes from the last two GLPA executive meetings have been published in the winter and summer newsletters, respectively. And of course, the meetings from our last GLPA business meeting that took place at the Pleiades conference. Normally, we would vote to not read the minutes and just approve them at this time, but we are still 4 people away from a quorum. So we may have to approve last year's minutes next year. So just leave that hanging. But, we don't want to get in the habit of doing business without a quorum, obviously. In addition to the, obviously stay tuned for the next published meeting minutes, because not only do we vote on things at exec, the exec committee is making decisions all year long because we're in constant contact through email. So about 5 or 6, 3 people away from a quorum now, because I already had Kit counted. Now I've lost my train of thought because of that. Oh yeah, so yeah, we voted on about 6 things throughout the year. I do not have them in front of me immediately to read off from the report. They will be published in the next newsletter. 2 people away. We're getting close. Yes. Can she pay her membership? We don't have a minimum age for membership. Just going to throw that out there. The concept. So yeah, that concludes the Secretary's report. Sorry.
Any questions for Dan? Okay, Dan, thank you for that report and for all the work you do and all the work you are about to do for the minutes of both of these meetings. And, yeah.
One thing I should mention actually is a project ongoing from me, the Secretary, is GLPA obviously has like a long and storied history. We're now over 50 years old. And significantly, there have been minutes taken ever since GLPA existed, but there hasn't been a good record of policy decisions that were made. So we actually are putting some work into. A huge thanks to Bart Benjamin and Gary Beckstrom for scanning all the existing paper records of the minutes, as well as going through old newsletters and finding them when they were not otherwise in our historical archives. So we actually now have a pretty much complete record of GLPA minutes from 65 to now. And I've been going through them and figuring out what our committee voted on and creating like a 1-sheet policy document for the exec committee. So this is important because every now and again someone will bring up like, we voted in 1982 to not do that, and there's no record that we have to know that other than hearsay, so we are trying to streamline that process and create a better inventory of what GLPA's existing and established policies are so that we know how to do things better going forward.
Which is a huge task, so let's give Dan our appreciation for that work, and Bart and Gary as well. Thank you guys for working on that. Sherry, did you have anything?
Thanks, Jeff. I already mentioned about my non-financial reporting of our insurance and the Michigan incorporation that we do annually, but I forgot to mention that Shannon was able to procure $3,000 kind of sponsorship donation from the Visitors and Convention Bureau of Lansing, which went towards offsetting expenses from our conference. So besides all the work that Shannon's done, that was a remarkable addition to our treasure. Thank you.
You did a really good job of saying yes. Thank you for that. Next up, IPS report. Mike Smale.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Smale. I'm GLPA's representative to the International Planetarium Society, the IPS. I've got a couple things we're going to run through related to IPS conferences, and then we're going to talk about IPS bylaw revisions that are currently open for vote for IPS members. First things first, the next International Planetarium Society conference will be in the summer of 2020 at TELUS World of Science Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. They are centered around a theme of big sky, thinking big, dreaming big, which is absolutely what they're doing. It'll be a week-long conference. There will be a full dome festival on the front end. Edmonton is fairly accessible from this part of the world, both via vehicle and via air. And the Canadian dollar is down right now, so it's actually pretty darn affordable for those of us in the U.S. There is a conference website that is live, ips2020.tuesday.ca, which I assure you that's actually a real URL that will take you to a page on the internet. They've got hotel information, maps of the sites, dates information. There's a pretty flushed out preliminary schedule already posted for that conference as well. So a lot of good information there. And just to give you one more thing, one of their big dreams is to get everybody at the conference on a kayak out in the North Saskatchewan River during the course of the conference. So it is a beautiful area. It's near Banff. There's a lot of outdoors activities, but they are thinking big and dreaming big in Edmonton. So beyond IPS 2020, the 2022 conference, its site will be selected next year at the IPS Council meeting. This past summer, 2 sites put in bids to host that conference. Those were Houston in Texas, USA, and St. Petersburg in Russia. There was a poster display with a little bit more information about both of these sites in the poster hall, as well as a sort of straw poll voting apparatus I was using to allow membership to share with me their thoughts on the 2 sites, on the 2 bids, because what will happen is at the IPS Council meeting next year, I will carry a vote for the Great Lakes Planetarium Association in favor of one of those 2 conference sites for 2022. Houston, again, just quick hits. And this information is also available online, both through IPS, and also it'll be in the proceedings from this conference as well. So you can get it there as well. It'll be over 4th of July. Registration around $400. Both sites are doing something kind of interesting. A lot of times for an IPS, there will be maybe 2 or 3 official hotels, which is kind of how it shakes out. Houston is actually both sites are kind of just blowing the doors up and saying, well, there's like 500 hotels in our city. And Houston has a light rail system. They're just going to give everybody a pass to take that. And then you just pick a hotel anywhere you want and then use the light rail to get from the sort of the museum campus to wherever you're staying. Houston has a recently renovated planetarium, and it's, again, phenomenally accessible from both the air. Yes, sir. No, there are a couple of, they've provided a couple suggested hotels. Sort of the genesis of it is where the museum and kind of the medical district where it is, there's only 1 or 2 hotels right there, and they're both kind of pricey. So they, rather than force everybody into a really expensive hotel, they wanted to open up options. And again, in the past couple years, like Airbnb and other things have popped up as for a lot of conference goers as lower cost options. There's also Rice Hotel dorms. They're like $50 a night that'll be available as well. So that's Houston, and then the other bid was from St. Petersburg, Russia, from Planetarium Number 1. This is an old gas storage facility in St. Petersburg, and it is the world's largest planetarium. It's a 37-meter dome. That's 121 feet to you and me. Their conference would be in August. Registration price is currently pegged. It's kind of a variable range. They haven't narrowed it down just yet, but in the 250 to 370 region. Hotels, again, the couple, they've suggested a couple of hotels that are reasonably close in walking distance, 140 to 240 euro range. But again, they've also said that there are 700 hotels in St. Petersburg. You can stay wherever you want. In addition to their dome, they have a large media hall. Their dome can fit about 700 people. And they have a media hall that fits about 600 people, so no parallel vendor sessions. Because you can fit just about everybody in one room at the same time. There are no nonstop flights to St. Petersburg from anywhere in the United States, but there are from just about any major European city. You can fly there and then get to St. Petersburg from there. You can also take a ferry to St. Petersburg from Finland and somewhere else. So another option. All right. So getting into the meat and potatoes of what we'll spend a little more time talking about. In addition to IPS officer elections, which are currently underway, there are bylaw revisions for the International Planetarium Society. The way the IPS Council is currently set up. IPS has elected officers, the same as we do, 3 past, elect, and president, and then secretary and treasurer. And then there are currently 22 regional affiliate organizations of the International Planetarium Society. GLPA is one of them. GLPA is the largest of them, far and away the largest of them. And at the IPS council meetings, one rep from each of those 22 organizations gets around the table with the IPS officers, passes business, performs official duties, things of that nature. That is a large and fairly bloated group. I mean, you pick 30 people around a table, it's tricky. So IPS has bylaw revisions that will allow them to basically sort of eliminate the council as it exists now and replace the 22 affiliate reps with 8 elected board members. These positions would be directly elected from IPS membership. Part of the bylaw revisions allow for the creation of a geographically diverse nominating committee from around the globe to suggest candidates for these board positions. And if you see there's a couple, you'll notice there's 2 North America boards, 2 Europe boards, and then a board seat for South America, Africa, Asia, Oceania. Trust me, there was an awful lot of discussion and time and back and forth and varying options brought to the table about how to offer a diverse yet equitable solution to worldwide representation among planetarians. The reason there are more board members for North America and Europe is that the way it is currently designed, if a geographic region has up to 50 IPS members, they get a board member. If they have between 50 and 499, they get 2 board members. And if they have more than 500, they get 3 board members. Currently, if I remember correctly, actually, North America is still a good 200 plus people away from getting a 3rd board member. So we've got a ways to go. Current IPS membership is, as of the summer, was 540, 277 in the United States, 263 in the rest of the world. It's also a pretty quick timeline for this. So the election goes until the end of November, and if you're an IPS member, you can vote through the IPS Planetarium website. You also probably got an email from Sean not too long ago about that process. The board members will be, the slate of candidates will be selected and put up for a vote in 2019. At the 2019 council meeting in June, those newly elected board members will attend as observers, and the current affiliate reps will attend with their usual traditional voting privilege. In 2020, the board members will have voting privileges. The affiliate reps can attend as observers, and that's the transition. That's the handoff. After 2020, the current affiliate reps will no longer attend the IPS council meetings, which is a pretty significant shift. Because again, you're probably wondering, how does this affect GLPA? What does this have to do with us and GLPA? And basically, because the individual, not just GLPA, but the individual affiliate reps will no longer have a physical person guaranteed at the table around that meeting. Now, that's not to say somebody from our region or any region couldn't also run for a board member seat. Those board member positions are, again, directly elected from IPS membership. And all the affiliate reps, the affiliates will still be, or the regional organizations will still be representatives of IPS. That's not changing. That's not going away. They will just communicate their region's news and information to their respective board member or board members, and the board members will represent that to the council. This will, GLPA Executive Committee is keeping an eye on this as once the election is finished, if the changes do pass, then that will require rewrites of our GLPA bylaws. As it relates to my position, the IPS representative position. And then GLPA Exec we're going to form a committee to look into more specific bylaw changes and adjustments that might be required. So, I've been talking for a lot. Are there any questions? Buck. Oh, I should probably bring you a microphone.
Since we're from North America and there's going to be 2 North America reps, we will essentially have 2 people representing us. It's not going to be a division of the area. Because the
board positions are still terms. They're 2-year. They're term limited sort of positions. So it could fluctuate. The initial 2 board reps could be from I don't know, GLPA and SEPA, and then the person from GLPA might go away and somebody from RUMPA comes in, or who knows, it can bounce around. So there's not really any design to like try to split the country. It's the U.S. and Canada, it's North America in this implementation. So there's no plans to like split it up geographically. It'll just be whoever those two people are. Those are the conduit. Couple of
I'm wondering how the nominations will work. We have an election committee, but I don't understand how that election committee will be sufficient to be the election committee for what's happening here. This is very important to have.
It is, yeah, that is
nominations coming from a lot of different.
A fantastic
ideas.
point, and there will be a separate elections committee created. I think Sean might want to say something to that end. But basically, a different group will be created of global representatives to handle that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one of the plans is to actually have the regional affiliate reps take part in that nominations process and really expand that committee, because the regions, that is going to be one of the affiliate sort of pieces or responsibilities carried forward, is that they will be helping to nominate people from their area, because to get people from North America nominated, for instance, you're going to need the regions of North America to say, oh, here are people from our region who would be able to represent IPS, if you will. So it'll be a combination of our current elections committee, but it will be expanded so that there are people from all the different regions with all the different regional affiliates within those regional board positions. So in North America, you'd have the Canadian Association of Science Centers, you'd have GLPA, SEPA, MAPS. There'd be a person on the nominating committee for those regions from all of the affiliate reps in that region is the plan.
Excellent, thanks. And for those of you who don't know, Sean Letch is the current IPS president. Mark Subarow, hanging out in the back, is the IPS president-elect. He will be president before you know it.
Mike, could I ask Sean something again?
Sure.
I'm wondering, will the people who are current representatives be allowed to nominate themselves onto the S board people to be elected or not elected?
I think the plan is that they could, but again, just like for our current positions, you need to be actually not self-nominated, but two people need to put you up. So for the current IPS positions, two outside people, if you're elected officer, need to put you up for that elected position. But it could easily be, if you knew someone, you could talk to your rep and put it in. One of the nice and really important things I will mention about this as well is the fact that all of these positions will have term limits. That's not been, for those of you who don't know all of the IPS structure, we have 22 affiliate regions as mentioned. In some cases, like in GLPA's case, their board position, their affiliate rep is an elected position. In some regions, it's an appointed position. In some regions, their president serves. So it's kind of all over the place, and sometimes those reps are there and sometimes they're not. So this really makes sure that the board is really serving IPS fully, and it's fully elected from our membership, so it really represents, but it also makes us smaller, nimbler, and able to make more decisions more quickly and more efficiently. And to provide what I think is really key, a way for younger people to get involved. Currently, IPS cannot afford to pay the entire way for all board members to attend meetings, which means that typically it's older folks and folks from bigger institutions who can afford or self-support themselves to go. This new way will allow younger people who might not necessarily be from big institutions or have big budgets to go, because their travel will be funded, and being able to move to a smaller board will allow us to do that. So it will streamline, it will make the organization much better in a number of ways, in theory, in terms of things. And so hopefully that helps.
We've got a couple more over here. So can you get Sue while you were over there?
Thanks. So he just answered one of my questions. was about who votes for these people, because in Europe or in Asia, they don't know who we are. So it sounds like the whole membership will be voting for these people.
Correct.
So the campaigning or the PR for whoever is running has to be really strong.
It will be the same like within the officers where it's put up. It'll be the same like the officers. It'll be put out in the planetarium. It'll be put in a variety of places. And the other thing I would say with that is, ASP does the same type of thing where their board members are nominated from around a whole variety of things. Not everyone knows, but that's why those candidate statements are important. They're put out there and put forward so everyone gets to read them. And please, folks, one other thing. I know there's lots of questions, and I think Mark wants to say something here too. Please take time to vote. This is like a 2-minute thing. Please vote. It's really important to the organization. If you are an IPS member, it really is a responsibility, kind of like hopefully you think of that way with regular elections. You're in the U.S. for other things. So it is a responsibility. Please do vote your conscience. If you don't know, read the candidate statements, read through the things, vote your conscience, but vote. That's the important thing.
Just to clarify, because I'm not so sure after Sue's question, but if you're running for North American representative, it'll be all the North American IPS members who vote for you, right?
Yeah.
You're not voting for people in other regions.
Yes, it'll be broken up by geographic area.
Yeah. But you're still voted by all those members within that region, so.
All right, so for Mike, Mark, and Sean, are there provisions in place that would prevent North America, I think would probably be the prime candidate for this, one of the regions from having both of the positions? There's none. So given GLPA's numerical superiority, it would be entirely possible that GLPA could have both seats on that representative board.
Yes,
Okay.
that is a possibility.
I'm going to be that person with 2 questions. My first question is, what about regionals that encompass multiple continents? So APLF encompasses both Europe and North America. How's that vote going to work?
Depends where that individual member is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's a Canadian member of APLF, they have to count for North America?
Yeah, it's based on the geographic location of the member.
Well, that's rough.
You have to do it one way or another. There's no perfect way of doing it.
Right.
But that is much better than, doing it geographically, because it is a geographic representation. It is the way that was suggested.
Okay. My other question has to do with host sites.
Point of order? Oh, okay.
So regarding the host sites, I know at least for Americans, and I think for other nationalities as well, you have to have a visa to enter Russia, even for a layover.
Correct.
Are they prepared to help us with that? Because it's also, you have to go to a consulate to get a visa, and there's no consulates near a lot of us.
Yes. Not too long ago, when Dave Weinrich was in charge, the IPS Council went to Nizhny Novgorod, to Russia, and they worked with the organization to make it as seamless as possible to get people over and take care of that. They are aware that from the U.S. and a good part of the world, visas will be a requirement.
That would be the same thing in terms of entering the U.S., because there's a lot of countries right now that have issues entering the U.S.
Yeah.
So you're on equal par in that way, in some way.
Right.
Yeah, and just to repeat, like, yes, that Sean brought up that goes the other way around as well. There are now a number of countries that have those sorts of same visa concerns coming into the United States as well. So.
Could you explain what might happen in the event that this doesn't pass? What
Sure.
will IPS's...
IPS is very vested in this, as Sean said, getting down to a more narrow, more focused, more precise organization to continue going and growing. If the vote were not to pass, IPS would do the due diligence and determine why, and then it would go back out for a vote again. Like this will, IPS's and these guys over there. Yeah.
So, apologies, slight correction to that.
Yep.
The council already voted to approve the changes to the board structure. So those items have passed. What's right now going out are bylaws changes, which are basically the way we word things and how those changes are implemented, if you will. So there are certain things when you have bylaws and standing rules. Standing rules, council can, make the changes and updates to that. With bylaws, you have to have a vote of membership to change. But the structural changes were approved by council. Those things would move forward. If the bylaws changes don't pass, we'd have to go back and rewrite the bylaws and come up with a better way of rewriting the bylaws or something like that. But the structural changes have actually, those, council did approve those. And that was a decision council could take because council itself is allowed to govern because that's what they are, what their position is to do. So these are cleaning up bylaws, making sure it's worded correctly, making sure that it makes sense in the way it's coming forward. And just for those of you who don't know, Vision 2020, this is a process that started back during Thomas GLPA's term. So it has been we're going into it started back with Paul Knappenberger's term. So we are going into like year 7 or so. This has been a long ongoing process to basically to look at this, and we brought in outside facilitator who's worked with NASA in the whole 9 yards. This is a very well thought out, long delivery process. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, Dan Top.
So not to get like nitty gritty with questions, but since you just mentioned that APLF being split up geographically, that sort of makes me wonder why. I mean, it seems like obviously Mexico would culturally been lumped in with South America. That's not what everyone has been saying for the last 2 weeks. Everyone's been saying Central America and the Caribbean are part of South America.
Central America and the Caribbean are.
Isn't Mexico part of Central America by most definitions? Okay, that would have been very useful clarification because Central America is a very loosely defined geographic region.
In California, we were told it was Central America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these boundary issues get really complex, and then you're like, what is a continent anyway?
We had some of this with Russia. Because Russia's like, some people say, is Russia Asia or is it Europe? And there's been that question too. But Russia, when you talk to the Russians, they will say they define themselves as European. So they're in Europe versus Asia.
Oh, that almost.
Yeah.
When it was suggested that Russia was in Asia, the whole thing almost fell apart. These are kind of, but yeah.
So the affiliate reps helped to set this geographic
That's
distribution.
right. We spent a lot of time working.
That's very reassuring.
Would it be possible to have like a map, or maybe it is somewhere and I just haven't found it, but a map with it actually showing the divisions?
That would be good.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it was listed out. I don't know that there was a map drawn, but I think it was listed out in John's report. I could be wrong on that, but I thought it was. But we can get a map. I'm sure we can get a map. Well, it'll probably take a little bit of time, but we can get something together.
Realistically, I'm sure there'll be places where we'll have to make individual decisions because it's a complicated.
Copious discussion.
One other thing I will say too is this means that all of the world has representation. Even though there's a smaller number of representatives, there have been areas of the world who do not have an affiliate rep currently. So this does mean that basically all of the world has representation in one way or another. Because every region, you don't have to have an affiliate organization to still be represented in IPS because you will have a board member from the region. So that is something else to make it more global in nature.
Any other questions?
I have two. I wanted to make the point that GLPA does allow younger members to, you're young.
Relatively.
Yeah, to attend because we pick up the 2/3 that IPS doesn't to send our rep to IPS. So that would quit, I would assume, since we wouldn't have a rep anymore, so it could save us a lot of money. And two, did I understand you correctly, is, you're not going to like me after this, but if IPS membership votes this down, this change has already occurred, and the only thing if IPS membership wanted to stop this, if they keep voting it down, it's still going to be implemented, is kind of what I heard you say. So it sounded that way.
Yeah, so I think if you look carefully at the bylaws, the proposed changes are not about implementing the structure. It's about implementing wording changes that reflect the structure. So for example, one thing is, everywhere we use the word council, we now use the word board, things like that. So if you vote it down, it's just going to make a mess for us, to be honest, but it's not going to really do anything other than make a mess.
Yeah. Again, you're right. Your representative voted for us, and I will mention, Gary. Yes, GLPA has done that. They've sent their rep. They've paid for the rep. That's not all the cases with the others. And like I say, so this will allow, because in a lot of other regions you find that only the, like I say, certain areas are able to represent it.
All right, well, if that's all the bylaw discussion, I've got one more slide. Sure, so a point that Jeff just brought up is currently GLPA is an organization, the executive committee of GLPA has 6 elected positions and 6 appointed positions. And that's a balance that we want to keep. So depending on how things play out with the IPS representative position, for example, that may be part of larger changes that GLPA looks into going forward as well.
Oh, Mike, one other last thing. I know I need to move this along, but the affiliate reps, as I mentioned, they're still going to have a role in this, all right, because they are going to be, reporting to, and even though the board session, they won't be paid to go to the board sessions now. Notice not council sessions unless you guys vote to keep it named council. But if assuming that we move to the board, affiliate reps would still be able to attend that. It would be on, either their dime or their region's dime if they decide to do that. But they still would be invited to attend, just like we invite our committee chairs and things like that to attend, even in the council year or the conference years. They still would be invited to those things, but not funded.
And in an observational capacity. Yeah. All right. Speaking of IPS membership, IPS is always looking for new members, new folks to get involved around the world. There's a number of recently lowered membership costs. I'll try to help drive attendance, including some student and career starter rates that start at only $25 a year. You get a lot out of it. The Planetarium, the IPS Quarterly Journal, which you had copies of at the poster displays. Hopefully you grabbed one if you're not an IPS member. Obviously, you have to be an IPS member to attend IPS conferences, which are every other year. There are a number of online resources and growing professional development opportunities available to IPS members as well. And as came up earlier, you get voting rights in the larger organization. And then one last note, please visit the International Planetarium Society webpage. It's ips-planetarium.org. There are a number of additional initiatives that Sue Button is responsible for. Coming up at the end of this year, Voices from the Dome, the Week in the United States for a Planetarian Operator. Those have some deadlines coming up toward the end of this year. There's also information about the International Day of Planetariums and other events there, so give those a look as well. And yes, somebody in this room also helps handle social media for the International Planetarium Society. So they are contactable on Twitter, on Facebook, and on the web. All right. Any final questions? All right. Thanks for your time.
Mike, thank you for your report and for representing us. And Sean and Mark, thank you for being here to answer those questions. One more thought did occur to me for anybody that feels like they're concerned that they would not be able to provide input to their representative to pass that feedback or those ideas or requests onto the rest of the board. We would still be represented. We just wouldn't be represented as a GLPA representative. We would still have North American representatives that we could appeal to. Exactly. Right, but it could be somebody from GLPA. But what I'm saying is we're still represented. So thank you all for that. That is important, and I'm glad we could take the time for that. Gary, I see you're at the edge of your seat, but relax just for a moment because we're going to back up just a little bit.
So we hit a quorum a few minutes ago while we were all listening. Jackie is out in the hall right now, but I think that counts as the annex. We haven't marked her as no longer present. Therefore, would anyone like to move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve the minutes from the last business meeting?
Who said that first? That's right. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Anyone not vote? All right. So thank you, Dan, for those minutes and for that report. All right, so now, Gary. So, Gary, with conference planning.
Come on up, Alex. While the sheriff's report was going on, Shannon nudged me in the side and said, well, I had to buy another cake last night, so I'm helping to spend down that money. Oh, that wasn't as funny as I thought it was. We're going to talk about Toledo. Okay, Alex is going to be our conference host next year, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Toledo. So hang on. Here we go.
Thank you. My name is Alex Mack. The University of Toledo Ritter Planetarium, about 107 miles southeast of here. The conference is going to be on October 23rd, starting on October 23rd. The hotel is going to be the Park Inn in downtown Toledo, right adjacent to the convention center and our AAA baseball affiliate stadium. Also, just about a 4-minute walk from Imagination Station, our local science museum, Children's Science Museum. Most of the conference will be held at the university. We have a 40-foot dome, seats 96 people. We have a Spitz Dome XD. So we'll have all the planetarium events will be in there. Most of the other events will be in the Student Union, which is going to be about a 2-minute walk from the planetarium. And we'll have most of the sessions in there, including the vendors in the auditorium. Waylena, you might remember that. It was where my wedding reception was. So that's where we're going to have the vendor display and a lot of the other activities as well. That's about all we have at the moment. Anybody has any questions? No? Okay. If anybody has any suggestions for speakers, for any ideas you might have, by all means email it to me, call me, whatever. And I'd also like to thank everybody here in Lansing for really showing us how to run a conference. I think they did a wonderful job, and they were a terrific role model for us. Thank you.
You know, I noticed all the other people came up here to report, opened up their phones, opened up their laptop.
I have a question for Alex, though. Do we have any idea about expenses?
Oh, yeah, the hotel is going to be approximately $90.
Hotel, approximately $90.
For the rest of the expenses.
Yes, per night, as Dan pointed out, not for the whole thing, yes. 2020 will be in Kalamazoo. We won't give you too much information about that, but the hotel is about 110, as I recall, plus tax. These are all plus tax. So there's always 11 to 17% usually tax on hotels. State meetings are coming up. We had state meetings here, or state caucuses actually, here at the conference, and usually the biggest job they have to do is to figure out where the state meetings are going to be in the spring. I know Indiana's is going to be in Indianapolis on April 13th or 27th, unless it's changed, and I don't see any indication that that's happened. Michigan is going to be on May 18th in Detroit, and I have no idea where Ohio's going to be.
Ohio is in Coshocton on April 27th.
April 20th. Bart, are you ready? Illinois?
We'll be in Bloomington, Normal on April 13th.
April 13th. And Wisconsin, Minnesota?
We'll be in St. Paul, April 12th and 13th.
So you can't go to Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota at the same time. So they're on the same day. I want to encourage you, we're doing something this year that we've never done before. And that's an online conference survey. Usually I get 60 of those papers back, and I spend several days going through them. Thanks to a very wonderful person. Has put the survey online, and I want to encourage you to fill that out after the conference. I bet Shannon's going to write down the website right now. It's in the front of your conference folder. I want you to prove me wrong. I'm worried that I won't get but 25 surveys back. I want at least 60. Okay? So prove me wrong, please. It takes a lot of people to do the conference planning stuff, and I'm the one that gets to stand up here in front of you, but we also have the conference registrar, the videographers who are standing back in the back of the room, and I should also point out that at least Tom and Steve have to take vacation days to be here to do what they do for us. We have the GLPA gear. Todd is here, the paper chair, the workshop coordinator, the GLPA photographers, the photo key producers, and of course Shane, John, and Shannon to make the conference. So I sincerely appreciate. Did I forget anybody? Paper chair. Yeah, I got that.
I was focused.
Your call. Any questions about conference planning? Any answers about conference planning? Nothing? I'm going to make a short report.
I want to say something. When you're filling out the survey, keep in mind there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and things that may have irked you that were minor things were probably things that the hosts thought about and tried their hardest to make as comfortable as possible for you and did the best they could. That doesn't mean it can't be improved upon, but don't be a jerk about it. They tried.
Our conference hosts do have a day job, and they are all volunteers. But I still appreciate it if you would list those things. So maybe it was something we were completely unaware of, didn't think of. I've had a couple things like that already, just went right over my head. I said, wow, that's a good idea. So sometimes if you put it down before, and we didn't do a thing about it, put it down again. Sometimes I'm thick-headed.
And also one thing to add to that is we on exec actually like debate back and forth quite a bit. We're not like always 100% in agreement, and your voice in these conference surveys is a big part of how we make decisions. So like it really matters. Like these aren't a joke.
Thank you, Dan, for that. That's a great comment and important comments. Thank you, Gary. And let's also include, we don't do this, we could never do this enough. One more big round of applause for all of the conference planning people. And Alex, thank you for that introduction and invitation as well. Next up, Dave Leake for Development Report.
Howdy. We had 43 sponsor representatives at this conference, representing 22 companies, which was a bit of a lull. And back in 2013, we had 21 companies visit. So a little bit of smaller number. This year, we also tried this new a la carte system that some idiot came up with. The feedback we've got back so far has been pretty good, that the sponsors kind of like it. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but as far as sponsor presentation time, it was 4.2 hours. It hasn't been that low in over 10 years. So, yeah. Anyway, a lot of people thought we might take a big hit in the revenue department. GLPA made just over $26,000 from the sponsors, which is not quite as much as Flint 2 years ago, but it's right in the ballpark. So we don't think we lost that much money. We came up with a brand new sponsor meal package where it only went up through Friday, and about 50% of the sponsors took advantage of that. They were pretty happy about that. This is also the first year we did not require sponsors to be members of GLPA, and although we're still working out the numbers on that, about 50% of them went ahead and rejoined. So we're going to look at their feedback, make tweaks to the system. We've got a number of issues with the website. Anything new, of course, is going to have problems, and maybe revise a few policies. But otherwise, we think it worked fairly well. Any questions for me? If not, just I know not many of them, or maybe none of them are here, but remember the sponsor dollars help to keep your registration costs low. So please, let's thank our sponsors once again. Thank you very much.
Dave, thanks for that report and for all the work that you do for GLPA, definitely. Next up, Megan Hernandez, Education Report.
Hello, everyone, and I have paper too. I like pen and paper. As the brand new education chair, I've met at lunch at the special interest meeting with everyone and have 3 kind of focus areas that I'm planning on working on with other members that volunteer. The PD learning, also with Jeff, he has some ideas, a way to polish it up, a way to clean up a system, find a way to get more professional growth out to us. For each other, I'm going to look into finding out how we do maybe CEUs or CPDUs to offer to our members when they complete professional growth. There's a lot to talk about. I have a list of people who already want to help out with this, and if you're one of those and you're not on my list, you can always contact me, and we can work on it together. The grant project, which has been in the makings for a while, is still a thing. We're going to be getting the application out soon, finishing up a few things on it. And that should be available on the website for projects that we want to do within our planetariums. And then a little working on some alignment documents, I guess we'll call it. The alignment document that was made years ago is still online. It's still there. It's still valid. And we've talked about connecting it with the next generation science standards. Something a little shorter, smoother, something you can pick up and use to justify your teacher visits to your planetarium. If anybody wants to help out any part of the education, feel free to contact me, and I may be contacting you anyway. Yes?
I've been working on that alignment document with Jean and Sally, and it's almost done.
Yeah, you're on my list. We're going to talk, because you're on that little subcommittee of my committee. And you've been a little busy, and I did hear that you had some stuff, and we'll talk. Okay, we'll talk. And that's it. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Peggy, for that report and for the work. Next up, membership. Walden.
Awesome. Okay. So we if anyone was wondering how many IPS members we have in our membership, it's 125. So we actually have a lot of IPS members in the GLPA membership, and if there's 500 overall, that makes over one. What was it? 450. Oh yeah, we're 540. So we're about 1/5 of the IPS membership just here in GLPA. So we have, our membership is down compared to 2016 and 2017, and also, of course, compared to last year. We were the cheapest option for people to go with to get memberships, and so membership was required for the conference, so all of the sponsors went through us to get their membership, and a couple of the international as well. So our membership is definitely lower than last year because of that, and it is actually lower than 2016 and 2017 as well, but that's because we are no longer forcing our sponsors to get memberships, even though we were offering it included in their package that they were getting. Some of them opted not to be members, so we wanted to be able to give them that option. And if we want to scroll down by, let's see, keep going. Go down to the maps. There we go. So we do have GLPA members all over the world, and actually, if you keep going down, keep going. I want to get to there we go. So you can see what our GLPA members are by state. It's actually beyond the regions. It's the largest of, or beyond the lakes is the largest of our states. So I think that's everything I have. If anybody has any questions. Yeah. All right.
All right, thank you, Paulette, for that report and for the work on membership. Next up, publications with Bart.
Okay, I'm going to just hit the highlights here so that we can move things along. Things going smoothly in the publications arena, and for those of you who are new, what we refer to as publications are our two regular publications, the quarterly GLPA newsletter and the annual conference proceedings. As far as the newsletter, a few headlines there. Preferences are still trending toward the digital edition of the newsletter, even though we started doing the color printed version as well. 76% of our members receive the electronic version, and when it comes to the number of people that we send a printed version to, which includes those that specify printed and those that specify both, they want both, that's 24% of our members, and that keeps going down. So the people who get the color printed newsletter love it, but there are fewer of them than ever before, so it is trending toward the digital. As far as advertisers, we currently have 11 contractual advertisers, and actually I can say that we now have 12, because after my report was completed, we received another one, the American Museum of Natural History. Yes, that's the one in New York. They're going to be an advertiser too, so that will be starting in the winter newsletter. And we sort of reached a milestone, and actually exceeded the milestone, because my report noted that the newsletter has reached break-even status, which means that the amount of revenue we get from our advertising equals the cost of printing the color printed newsletter. And part of that is because of advertiser support, and also part of it is because we don't print as many now since that trend is downward. So last year we had a shortfall of $770. This year I was reporting it'll be break even. We'll actually do a little surplus now that we have one more advertiser. Thanks to our state chairs, Renee Kerrigan, Barb Williams, Shannon Schmoll, Dale Smith, Jean Creighton, Mary Holt. Thank you for continuing as state chairs. They are the conduit for our members to send in their facility reports, and that's about now. So sometime in the next week, do your state chair and me a favor and start compiling your facility reports, send them to your state chairs so they can put them all together in one report, and then they forward that to me. Special accolades go to Emily Romy. Those of you probably know, most of you probably know that she now does the covers of the newsletter. And Emily is one of those few rare people who has significant skill sets in both art and science. And when I first started as a planetarian, I worked at the predecessor institution in Peoria prior to the Peoria Riverfront Museum. It was called Lakeview Museum of Arts and Sciences. Back then, the arts dominated the sciences, so whenever we got a new executive director, we hoped that they would be a little bit more science-oriented. There were two camps of people, the arts people and the sciences people, and there weren't too often people who could exist in both worlds and recognize the value of both. And Emily is one of those people that's really good at both, and we are lucky to have her doing our covers now. So, is she here? Oh, so round of applause. The proceedings, Dale Smith is pleased to report, and I'm pleased to report also that all of the texts for this conference are in hand. So there are a few invited speakers that, fingers crossed, we think we're okay there too. So that means that things should go swimmingly for preparing the digital version of the proceedings, which means it'll probably be completed either late this calendar year or early next calendar year. So, and this is GLPA's 35th proceedings. We started with the Milwaukee Area Conference of 1984 was the first time we ever did a proceedings. And all but the first 4 of them were done by Dale, so this will be his 31st. And finally, the deadline for the winter issue of the newsletter is fast approaching. So in addition to compiling your facility reports that you send out to the state chairs, if you have anything else, including photographs, they're always, the IPS planetarian editor is always looking for photographs to go along with the information. So if you have photographs, send those too. Some of you are doing that, so I just want to keep the ball rolling in that regard. So put together what you have and send it to me soon, because believe it or not, the winter newsletter is soon to be taking off. So any questions? That's my report. Yeah.
I just want to tell you that I think I did about 14,000 photographs in 7 years.
Wow. That deserves a round of applause. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we're going to start putting a little ad in for the GLPA gear. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been wearing shirts and vests and so forth. This is all GLPA's own store managed by Todd DeZeo, and it's got some great stuff. The quality of the stuff has never been better than, and what's great about it is that he doesn't have to guess what to order, because the people, you, the customer, decides from a whole assortment of different product types, colors, everything. So please do yourself a favor and at least look at the stuff and see what you might like, because the quality is really first rate. Any other questions?
How many newspapers have you edited?
I think 123 maybe, something like that, and counting.
All right, so thank you, Bart, for that report and for the work on the newsletter and heading up this committee. I should also point out that Emily is now also the head of the design subcommittee of publications, and so they are helping us to work on consistent branding. We appreciate that. Thank you for that, too. So thank you, Emily, Bart, and Dale, for all of your work. Next up, technology. Here's Tom.
Hello, hello. I'm Tom. I'm the new technology chair. I would just like to publicly thank Dana Thompson, our previous technology chair, for all of her work in that position, and of course Jeff Holt, who was in that position before her. Also, thanks to Dana this year for a tremendous amount of help with the conference and getting information collected, and to Shannon for that. While we're on the topic of conference registration, I just need to express my public thanks to both Janet and Paulette for their work on sort of trying to help me keep the database in good order as we went through that process. Adding the sponsor a la carte system this year added a new twist to things, and their help was just invaluable with that. Thank you very much to Bart Benjamin for all his help in maintaining our web content, and he's very useful with all the work that he's doing with that. Thank you to Renee Kerrigan for her work on our Facebook page, and to Mike Smale for his work on our Twitter account. And because they gave me a microphone, I just have to spend a moment to publicly thank our video staff for all their work, because we're now doing AV things for the conference as well. So John Forge, Brian Wolf, and Steve Sumakrest, I want to thank them for all their work. And a little bit of midnight coding this year on those screens that you saw up here in the front that show all of the tweets and things that come in during the conference. Twitter did a API change on us, so we had a little bit of last-minute hacking on that, which is a little exciting. By the way, oh yes, let's... By the way, if anyone is interested in helping on any of these things I mentioned or getting involved, I would be delighted to hear from you. I know you probably don't see me as much as you should during the conference because I'm running around with all the cameras and things, but please reach out, email me, send me a Facebook message, whatever. I'm available after the conference, and I have a moment to just pause and breathe, and I would love to get more people involved in our committee. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom, for that report and for all the work you and the videographers and the rest of your committee do. So that's it for our reports. I don't know of any old business. Is there any old business that people would like to bring up? All right. Moving on then, I don't know of any new business to report. Is there any new business? Am I waiting too long? All right. And then do we have a motion to adjourn? Do you got those names? All right. There's no discussion on the motion to adjourn, so all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it, I declare. So we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Shannon, announcements?
Woo! Are we ahead of schedule? We're still. Yes! All right. Well, I think the next order of business is fun. So we have the Constellation Shootout, which, Dan, you're running? And Michael. You guys are running it. Yeah. Woo! Okay, we're going to do Constellation Shootout, storytelling, door prizes, all that stuff. One other thing, since we are going to be ending up around dinner time, we don't have dinner plans for the conference, but what you do have in your notebook are a list of area favorites from our staff and the directions in which you can go to get them. So if you are heading out, you can get to one that's in your direction. So check that out. I'm going to go over there at storytelling. You're also probably going to hear me cry, well, I think less people. So make sure you come.
All right, thanks again for everything that everybody does to make this organization run. Thank you.
With regard to the Constellation Shootout, by the way, even if you don't want to shoot out constellations yourself, we have some ideas where the audience will help us jury a few things. So we'd really appreciate your attendance as audience as well as participation.